For my senior project, in addition to communicating my own experience of transitioning from female to male, I was able to use a website called surveymonkey.com to create a survey targeted at FTMs all around the world. Now you may be wondering, why did I feel the need to do a survey when I myself have experienced the transitioning process? Well, I realized that my experience isn't the only experience people have when they're transitioning. I'm doing this because as an FTM myself, I have a small window into the experience of transitioning from female to male. But I know there's a lot more out there, and that's where you guys come in. Take the survey, you'll be able to help inform people about the experience of transitioning. I opened the survey on March 4th, posted it on a bunch of social networks and some of my friends' FTM pages, and by the end of the survey, I closed it on March 24th, I had 180 responses. And what was even more shocking was where they were coming from. They were coming from all over the world. Like, look at this map up here. It was amazing. All in all, this survey was pretty enlightening. So now it's time for a bit of an overview. If someone was to take the survey, this is what it would look like. I put in this welcome section to summarize what I was doing, and it gives you the link for the video that I showed a clip of. It's really just the introduction. The background section, I just wanted to get the background of the person, see how old they are, what their name was, where they're from. The coming out section, I wanted to know the ages of the people, so I asked what age they were when they came out to themselves, their friends, and their family. Based on my inquiries, the people would be oldest when they're coming out to their family and youngest when they're coming out to themselves. Also, I wanted to test if people's families were less accepting than people's friends. Next, we have the internet community. I just wanted to see if people used YouTube or if there were other websites that were more popular. And up next, we have daily life. It's exactly what the title says. It's daily life. It asks about binding, packing, if you go by your preferred name and pronouns, which bathroom you prefer to use. Next, we have transition, current and future plans. So it talks about legally changing your name, getting diagnosed with gender identity disorder, starting testosterone, getting possible sexual reassignment surgeries. Next we have education and school environment. I wanted to see if people who were in public schools got bullied, but at the same time, they were probably not getting bullied because they're trans, so this section epically failed. And next we have work experience. A lot of people skipped this question, and these were questions that SurveyMonkey recommended. They weren't really part of what I was trying to get at. In the final section, I wanted to see if these people, if they could go back and be born as cisgender, would they, or would they be born as who they are today? I wanted to see what these people were interested in, what they wanted to do with their lives, and what they're excited about, because we often forget that our lives are not just a huge transition. So now I've had 180 people complete this survey, and I have the results just waiting for me. So I download them onto my computer using SurveyMonkey's download service. It puts all the data into a raw Excel sheet. The hardest part was going through that data, and my father helped me a lot. We were able to get useful data from most of it. There were a few sections, such as the work environment and the school/bullying section, that yielded no usable data. People averted the question a lot, and when they did answer it, I'm going to rule that dilatory and strike it from the record because it's not usable data. But the stuff that we did get was pretty amazing. Now we get into the analysis of the data. So the coming out section yielded some numbers for me, which we're going to go over first. And that was the age you came out to yourself, the age you came out to your friends, and the age you came out to your family. So I put all those ages into a spreadsheet. I came up with 3 average numbers, which is the average age of a person when they do this. So the average age of an FTM coming out to themselves is 16.2. That makes sense because a lot of people at that age are either in puberty or are starting puberty. And for trans guys who have to go through female puberty, they really know something's wrong. They know that this isn't supposed to happen to them. But then what I found interesting was that the average age of people who came out to their friends was about 18 and a half. So why would they wait like 3 years to tell anyone about it? Well, the numbers in the coming out to yourself were often lower. Like, I knew when I was 12, I knew when I was 4. So that sets the numbers a little lower. It makes sense to be over 18 because you're an adult, you're who you are, you can tell anyone you want. It doesn't matter. Then for family, the average age was 18, almost 19. It's 18.9, so that's almost 19 years old. I think this is because you're 18, you're able to establish your life outside of your home, if that's college or something, safe enough in the outside world to tell your parents and not have to fear anything. That's what I found on the ages of coming out. There was a correlation between coming out to first yourself, then your friends, then your family. It was a rare case when it was self, family, friends. Here's the reason why. I also asked how accepting were they when you came out to them. So I was able to create these charts. These charts show that friends are most of the time very accepting because they should be. They're your friends. They choose to hang around you, they don't have to. Then, if you look at the family side, they're usually moderately accepting. Yeah, you're our family, we kinda, we love you, whatever. I mean, not like that, but you can see a difference in the charts. There's the very accepting and the moderately accepting, and there's the friends you tell first, and then there's the family you tell second after you're pretty sure. It's really interesting. And as far as I can tell, and as far as this data can tell, it's a trend. The next set of questions is based on the RealLife Test. Living full-time as a male in society. Did you bind, because some have had surgery already? 77% of people have said yes. That's huge. That's everyone binding their chest down to make it look more masculine. And just to reiterate, a total of 92% at least bind sometimes or always. Binding is a crucial part of the experience, but packing not so much. Do you pack? Packing is when you put something in your underwear to make it look like you have male anatomy. 34% say, yeah, I do it sometimes, 50% said no. This is because it's a very uncomfortable experience, and you only really hear horror stories on the internet about things falling out of your pants, and then you're like, I can explain that, but I can't. That's definitely a part of the experience. The next question was, do you go by your preferred name and pronouns? 66% said yes. 26% said sometimes. And then 7% said no. I'm also counting the 7.7% as people who have not come out yet to their families and friends and are not able to go by their preferred name and pronouns in their day-to-day life. But it is a part of the RealLife Test, and that's why I asked the question. Which bathroom do you prefer to use in public places? Part of the RealLife Test, you're supposed to avoid the women's room because it's the women's room and you need to be able to pass as a male in society and be able to use the men's restroom. So here's a chart. The options were men's room, women's room, family bathroom, and none. The no response is just people who skipped the question, and the men's room, pretty obvious, the men's room. Women's room, the women's room. Family bathrooms are usually used for mothers with multiple children. So it's great for trans people because it doesn't matter what gender you are, you can just go in, and it's usually just one stall, so that's awesome as well. I like to think of none as avoiding it completely, like using the bathroom at home and then going out and then coming back. So those were the results I got from the RealLife Test. It comes out in the end. Binding, packing, using a different bathroom, and changing your name and pronouns are all part of the test. Next up for analysis is the diagnosis. The question I placed on my survey to serve this purpose was, do you plan to pursue being diagnosed with gender identity disorder, which is what you have to get diagnosed with in order to medically transition. Here's the chart. As you can see, 50% of people have already been diagnosed, which is ridiculous. 8% skipped the question. 9% said, no, I will not be pursuing diagnosis of gender identity disorder. And 32% said, yes, I will be pursuing it in the future. So 82% are on board. Yeah, I'll do it, cool. From what I can see, the 9% are probably the people who are saying, I don't need to be diagnosed, I know what I am, and I'm waiting for the system to change so I can live my life. So basically, diagnosis is still a common thread throughout the experience. A lot of people do choose to be diagnosed. Which brings us right into medical transition. Again, some people choose to forego this bit of awesomeness. After being diagnosed with gender identity disorder, they are now going to pursue hormone treatment, or HRT, hormone replacement therapy. Now, I've made this chart to help explain my results. 50% said, hells yes, I want to go on testosterone. 35% were like, I'm already on testosterone, dude. What up? So that brings us to 85% of the FTMs that took the survey will be on testosterone by the end of their life, at some point. 8% said, maybe. You know, I'm 12, haven't come out to my parents yet. I'd like to. Or, I don't know if my insurance covers it. I don't know if I'm in the right position in my life to do this. Maybe next summer, you know? Not a definite, just a floating possibility. 2% of people said no. Now, some people, as I said before, like their insurance doesn't cover it, they can't afford it, they can't be diagnosed with gender identity disorder, meaning they can't get the prescription. And I know people who have personal reasons for not wanting to be on testosterone. 8 people skipped the question. Only 3 people said they didn't want it. Testosterone decision is definitely part of the experience. Most choose to go on it, but some don't. But they're still trans. Who knew? I did. Now you do. Other part of the medical transition is the surgeries. The SRS, sexual reassignment surgeries. Now this is top surgery, the removal of breast tissue to make it more masculine. I'm not going to go into depth because it's kind of gross. But the basic principle is you have top surgery so you don't have to bind anymore. And then there's bottom surgery, which can be anything from having your female reproductive organs removed just because you don't want them in there anymore, they're causing you pain, or some people just have them removed just because. Then there's the constructive bottom surgery, where you take skin grafts from different places to construct male anatomy. It's quite expensive and you usually have to go overseas to get it. So the question I asked on the survey was, are you interested in SRS? I did multiple choice, but I had them be able to check multiple boxes as well. Out of 161 people, 158 said they are interested in top surgery. That's 98.1%. The 98% is expected because no one wants to bind. Bottom surgery, I put in parentheses anything to do with below the belt. 50% said that they were interested in that. And I see that 50% are like, yeah, I could do that, and 50% are like, I don't need to. So that's really interesting. And I like how it correlates with the packing and binding. Binding is almost 100%, top surgery is almost 100%. Packing is about 50%, and bottom surgery is legitimately 50%. And I'll just touch on the legal transition here because it doesn't need its whole own section, because there's only one question. Do you plan to legally change your name? 72% said yes, 20% said already changed, and 6% said no. 11 people out of the 166 people who answered the question are not going to change their name. In my experience, that's usually because they have a fairly androgynous name, like a Sam, Alex, Skylar, Chris. There's a whole list of androgynous names that could be both for girls or boys. I'm betting that those 11 people have fairly androgynous names. And finally, to bring this to a close, we go to happy ending, which is the final step in the experience of transitioning from female to male. One of the last questions on the survey is as follows. If you could, would you go back and be born cisgendered, meaning your sex matches your gender? The answers were kind of surprising. Out of 139 responses, 94 said they would go back and change. That's only 67%. I'll be honest, I was expecting larger numbers. All in all, I think I can think of reasons. This experience is amazing, and without it, I would not be who I am today. Not just as in Eric, but as in character and quality of life that I'm living and the person I am. The emotions I feel. I would not feel this if I was born a biological male, or for that matter, a biological female with female gender expression. This is a word cloud. What it does is the more times a word appears in the text, the bigger it is. So the big words are the ones that people said a lot. From the last question, what are you most excited about in your future? That a lot of it is life, and excited, and transitioning, and college, education. God. And my personal favorite, love, family, future. It's just so happy. It's a word cloud of awesomeness. 150 people made that word cloud. The word cloud. Thanks for joining me on this amazing journey. See you next time. It's my project. It's pretty sweet.